We are now being joined by our teammate, Tom Crean, calling March Madness action for us this weekend. Westwood One Sports, your exclusive home, audio home for the NCAA Tournament and the Elite Eight. And the time has arrived for us to break down games in the round of 8 of this tournament. And let's start with this question with the all Big Ten showdown in Houston. Considering the league they come from, Tom, do you consider Iowa a Cinderella?
No, because they have a lot of money. And I think anybody that's over $4 million right now in NIL at any level, I don't think there are any Cinderellas. High Point had a ton of money in their league, whether it was 4, whether it was 5, maybe I've heard even higher. So there's no Cinderellas when you have that. And in the case of Iowa, when you watch them play, they are first off, it just shows how good the Big Ten is. But bottom line is they're a really good team. I had a chance to call their games this past weekend in Tampa. And so I got a chance to see them practice up close and watch them play up close. They're the real deal. I mean, they are tough. They are extremely quick. They cover up for mistakes, which they don't make a ton of them, but they cover up for mistakes so fast, not only on the offensive end because they can shoot the ball, but on the defensive end because they recover so quick. They get around you. Their post defense is really, really good because you might be open for a second, and if you don't throw it in, they're covering it up. They're getting into your body. They're getting around you. They're using their hands and their feet. They're on the glass tough. They believe they can win, and they're very, very committed to playing the way that Ben McCollum wants them to play, and they do a great job of it.
And the fact that Ben McCollum's doing this in his first year after Fran McCaffrey was there forever. I'm just interested watching it up close in Tampa or watching what we saw the other night. Just what impresses you from a coaching lens about how this team executes in late game where Florida presses and Fulgaris is open when they break that press for that 3. And then, of course, they don't have 5 players on the floor and Fulgaris is catching that long outlet pass for the and 1 that put the game away. What most stands out to you about Iowa's late game execution and how much of that is coaching?
Well, you could watch basketball another 50 years and maybe never see it with 4 players on the court at one time. And they were the beneficiary of some bad luck for Nebraska on that. But I think even with the press offense, like they had the corner open throughout the game. They just didn't throw it to them. And Florida probably should not have let Bennett Sturts catch it going downhill on the court where they had to overhelp. But I think it's just a matter of they get open. They have very good spacing. They know what they want. They have very good drivers. Their bigs are outstanding drivers, and they can shoot the ball. Fulgaris was 13 of 13 from the foul line last weekend in Tampa. I mean, most of them were switches. So, like, the 3 was not a surprise the way that he shoots it. He was a really good three-point shooter at Robert Morris, and he's done a great job there. This is what it is with them. It's not about the lack of possessions. I think they average 61, which is definitely lower than average. It's how they maximize each possession. Their efficiency is so good. And so when you watch them, you can't get caught up in how many shots they're getting or how many possessions they're having or how many points they're averaging. Are they getting the most out of every possession? And more often than not right now, they are. And when they've been successful, they are. And they really know how to utilize Bennett Sturts. I think the most interesting thing to me is not only does he put a team of shooters on the floor, they're all very good passers. Very, very good passers. And Bennett Sturts is a guy, the other thing that's so different is he moves him around constantly. And I think that's great coaching. I tried to do that with our guards. You know, if it was a point guard, I tried to move them around because you never want to let the defense lock into how they're going to guard the best player or the point guard. And I think Ben does as good as anybody maybe in the country, but definitely in this tournament of moving his best player around and continuing to make him hard to guard and hard to find.
Tom Crean's with us here, calling March Madness action for Westwood One Sports, our teammate, kind enough to be here. Following Iowa, Illinois, Arizona, Purdue, a matchup between arguably the best team in college basketball all season against the team that was ranked preseason number 1 in the preseason AP poll. How close or lopsided do you consider this matchup to be, Tom?
Well, I think Purdue is playing really well with their starters, but the other thing that's happened for them is their bench really guards. I mean, they've got guys that aren't scoring a lot of points, that come in the game and really guard. And I think that's really important in this game because they're going to be fearless. They will absolutely be fearless. I think what you have, they're going to match them with intensity and toughness. I think what Arizona has is they have the best overall depth. I think they've had it all season. I think they have it in the tournament. I think when you can go to the bench like Florida did last year, and you can basically say that you have 8 guys that would start for probably 75, 80%, maybe even higher of the power teams in the country, then you've got something going really good. And I think that's what Arizona has. Maybe power 5, power 6, I would say they'd start. Maybe not everybody, but they've got a really deep team. They can beat you a lot of different ways. They can really rebound. They get fouled. That's a huge deal. I mean, that's an absolutely huge deal. So with Purdue, they're excellent in the pick and roll. Braden Smith is fantastic, but Trey Kaufman-Renn is fantastic in it as well. He can score in the post. He can score in the roll game, the ball screen game. Fletcher Lawyer's making shots. I think that's really important for them. I think Arizona's the best. I picked them at the beginning to win it, but I think this Purdue game is going to be fantastic because I think they are playing with tremendous confidence and tremendous physicality.
Let's try to imagine that you're the head coach of the Purdue Boilermakers. You're in Matt Painter's position, and you're having to try to scout Arizona. Who's the player that you think is keeping you up at night trying to prepare for this? Who's the guy you're most losing sleep over in the scouting report?
For me, Ivan Karchenkov. I think he is an incredibly hard matchup. I've thought that all along. He had a really good game last night. I mean, think about it. They scored 60 points in the paint and had all those points at the free throw line as well. And Ivan Karchenkov he can attack any matchup. And I think he's the one guy, like they got outstanding guards, very good bigs, really good freshmen, player of the year in Jaden Bradley. But Ivan Karchenkov is the hardest to guard because of his strength, because of his driving ability. He can shoot it. He can overpower you. And what happens is this. You think because Bradley's in the game and Burries is in the game and Krivax is in the game and all those different guys. So what level of defender are you putting on Ivan? And the thing that Arizona does such a good job of is they find matchups and switches and mismatches for him to take advantage. And he doesn't have to be the leading scorer to be one of the leading impact guys. So that's the guy that would really, I'd be really game planning for how we're going to guard him.
Tom Crean joining us here, Westwood One Sports. Now let's shift gears to the coaching carousel. A lot going on in the state of North Carolina where I call home. I'm in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, right down the road in Chapel Hill. North Carolina is open, and the Tar Heels are going big game hunting. Since they are likely to hire outside the family for the first time in any of our lifetimes, what does your criteria look like for a fit, and who might fit that mold?
Well, I'm not going to go to who would fit because so many people that could fit them are still coaching, and I don't do that. But I would say what they need, whether it be somebody in college right now that's still coaching or just got beat, whether it's an NBA coach, whatever it is, they need somebody that is going to be stronger than the infrastructure, because that infrastructure is not great there right now, right? There's too much going on. There's too many things that are hanging in the balance. And that's what happens when you get your expectations are so high and then you're not aligned as you go through them. And that's just the way it is. I mean, I lived a lot of that at Indiana. So that there's a lot of that. I would say you have to have a very strong leader that knows how to build alignment, right? Because you may not walk into complete alignment, but you're going to be responsible for pulling them together. And when push comes to shove, you got to be strong enough and have a contract strong enough and have experience strong enough that you can overcome it if there's some resistance. I think that's big. I think somebody that brings an edge basketball wise, whether it's the way they develop players, whether it's an offensive edge, whether it's a creativity, you got to have something that you can hang your hat on and have an identity with. But at the same time, you got to be really game plan driven. And you have to have somebody that walks in and sees Duke and sees the ACC and sees the other teams in the country and says, we can get back to this in a quick period of time because of how we're going to recruit, because of how we're going to develop, and how we're going to go after each game for what it is. Because you're certainly going to have the money. I think anybody acting like they were going to lose money and that's why they moved on to Hubert. I don't believe that one iota. All right, and not one bit. I mean, it's North Carolina. You're not, if everybody's got money, North Carolina's going to have as much money as they need. It just is the way that it is. So I think those are the biggest things. And somebody that when there's a couple of hard days and you lose 3 games in a row, or you lose a game you shouldn't have lost for the second time that year, that leader is strong enough to keep his group intact and not let people infiltrate it. And the people that are a part of the core are going to look at it and say, this is our guy. He's going to get it done. We've got to stay locked into this and not start chirping at the water coolers or get on the phone with this donor, get on the phone with that donor and do all that nonsense. Because that's not just a Carolina thing. That's an everywhere thing. And if the leadership is not strong enough to endure that, it gets real hard. And now you start having little fractions in the chinks in the armor, I should say.
Yeah. Every coach I've talked to publicly or privately hates what happened to Hubert and didn't think it was necessary. How has the coaching community, which you're right in the middle of and have so many connections in, how has it hit them? What conversations have you had?
You know, in all honesty, I'm not really talking to people. I'm here doing this tournament. I'm locked into what I'm doing. We've had interviews. I'm really not on the phone very much talking to people. I mean, I just read what I read. Sure. And I don't really get into that. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what any coaches think. This is the business. This is the business of it. You know, I've lived it to a degree. I mean, this is the absolute business of this. And there's 2 sides to every business decision. And a lot of times when you have what happens to Hubert, no one should ever be questioning when a coach leaves before his contract is up. Because at the end of the day, it just becomes what narrative you want to pontificate on, or what narrative you want to speak loudly into a megaphone on. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it's the whole thing of loyalty and we're all together and all that stuff. That's not really the way it's been in a long time, and it's really not that way now. The money and the voices that are involved in this now because of the NIL. All the different things that go on, the competition for that money, the competition to be at the top of the ladder. It's just the way that it is. And you just have to deal with it. That's why getting the strongest leader into a place like North Carolina is really, really important, or you're going to be going through this again in a couple of years.
Tom Crean, you referenced your time at Indiana. We'll be doing our show from the Final Four in Indy next week at Westwood One Sports. Obviously, we're carrying the darn thing. If I try to drop your name to get a table at St. Elmo's, how does that go?
No, I don't know anybody there. No, well, you know what? The owner of St. Elmo's, I think they live in Sarasota. I saw him at a clothing store one time downtown in St. Armand Circle, but I have no juice there. I used to have juice at Moe's, place for steaks, but I don't think I have juice there anymore. Try maybe, I don't know, Steak and Shake or something like that. Maybe try one of those places. I don't think I have juice. I don't have juice anywhere in there. I don't think I could walk. I don't think I could call into any place and say, hey, it's Tom Crean. Could I get a table and move up the list on any place? There was a time when I could have done that, but not anymore.
Tom Crean, we enjoy hearing you on the call. Thank you so much for making the time for us here on Westwood One Sports.
Absolutely.